Hey everybody, it's Dave here from Dragonhill Games, and you're watching This Week in MTG Finance. As always, and before we get started, I want to thank MTG Stocks for allowing us to use graphical information for the purposes of this video. And if you're one of the many new subscribers to this channel, welcome to the Dragonhill family. I do This Week in MTG Finance every week on Sunday at 12 midnight Eastern. So if finance is your thing, make sure you check that out. All right, let's dive right into our top 10 list, and we're going to start right here with Thran Quarry from Urza's Saga. Coming in at number 10 this week and up 131%, we have Thran Quarry from Urza's Saga. Now, this is the actual only printing of this card, but it's not on the reserve list, so keep that in mind. At $19.50, this card has been slowly gaining traction for commander purposes since around Ikoria, when it was valued in the $3 to $4 range. Clearly this is popular in go wide decks, especially those that need to be able to access multiple colors of mana. So we're talking things like Sliver Overlord. There's no one deck in particular that I think is really pushing the price on Thran Quarry this week. It's more so just organic demand and people realizing that this really is a very good card for commander. Our number 9 winner this week is the original printing of Fountain of Youth from the Dark, and this is up 148% to $17. We've seen a lot of these original print cards kind of moving up over the course of the last few weeks and months or so, and the Dark has been no exception, but a lot of the focus really has been around some of the really older sets like Antiquities and Arabian Nights. Fountain of Youth has had a bunch of other printings, mostly in core sets, where you can pick up one still for under the 50-cent mark. There's also a few new commanders that we've seen from Strixhaven that really play into life gain, Dina, Soul Steeper, for example. And coming in at number 8 this week, we have another original print, and that would be Cursed Rack from Antiquities. Now this is up 183% to almost $24. Mostly for the same reasons we discussed with Fountain of Youth, these original prints from these older sets really have been on the move lately. It's not a reserve list card, but that said, it hasn't been reprinted since 4th edition either. Of note, this has also been errated to say, when Curse Rack enters the battlefield, choose an opponent. That opponent's maximum hand size is 4. Now our number 7 winner this week is Mammoth Harness, a reserve list card from Homelands. At $9.50, this is up 207% this week. And I can't find any reason why this is on the rise other than the fact that it's actually on the reserve list. There are no other printings of this card. It's a pretty terrible card. For 4 mana, 1 green and 3, we get an enchant creature. When you enchant that creature, it loses flying, but if that creature becomes blocked, it gains first strike. As I was saying, pretty terrible card overall, and I had to look over on EDH Rec, and it doesn't seem to be in really any decks, and there's no new tech going along with this, so everything around this card has to do with the fact that it's on the reserve list. Taking up the number 6 spot this week, we have another reserve list card in Wave of Terror from Weatherlight. At $18, this is up 245% this week. Wave of Terror is actually a pretty interesting card, and to be honest with you, I'm surprised there hasn't been more focus around this card in the past. For 1 black and 2, we get an enchantment that has a cumulative upkeep of 1. Now at the end of each of your upkeeps, destroy each creature with casting cost equal to Wave of Terror's last paid cumulative upkeep. There's a bunch of new decks that this works really well with. I can think of things like Belladross Witherbloom and even Black's Vexing Pest. Would definitely want to slot this into their builds. Combine the fact that this is a reserve list card, it's no wonder we're seeing Wave of Terror on the rise. At $19, our number 5 winner, Noelle Dragon from Shadowmoor, is also up 245% this week, and for good reason. So first, let's understand Noelle Dragon. 7 mana, 7/5 flying dragon. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard your hand and draw cards equal to the damage dealt to an opponent this turn. Now the reason this is on the rise this week is because of a new card we have from Strixhaven, and that would be Dragon's Approach. It's simply for 3 mana as a sorcery, does 3 damage to each opponent. However, you can exile 4 copies of Dragon's Approach from your graveyard to tutor up a dragon and put it directly onto the battlefield. And you can have any number of Dragon's Approach in your library. So it's clear to see the synergies we have with Dragon's Approach and Noelle Dragon, and it's no surprise we're seeing a massive price spike this week. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on our number 4 winner this week, Piety, the light version from Arabian Nights, is at $22.25, and this is up 251% this week. For the same reasons as a lot of these original print cards, it's not on the reserve list, but it does have some collector value, and there's a couple other printings in 4th edition and another printing in Arabian Nights. Pretty much the same story with our number 3 winner this week, Ragman from the Dark. At $30, this is up 329% this week. Clearly, this is a buyout, and of note, it actually closed the day on April 17th at nearly $60. Not a reserve list card, in fact, has a ton of other printings. The only difference here with Ragman is it's probably actually playable in certain kinds of decks. It's a 4-mana 2/1, and you can pay 3 black and tap it to look at an opponent's hand. If they have creatures in their hand, they have to discard one of them at random. Seems like it could be a decent card in the right deck, especially in something like Terror Grid, for example. I tried to shy away from printing specific spikes, especially if there's no good reason for it. However, our number 2 winner, Read the Bones from Commander 2017, really intrigued me. This is actually up 335%, and for no apparent or good reason. There's a bunch of other printings of this card. What makes the Commander 2017 printing so special? It's probably just a supply and demand situation. However, I wouldn't be caught dead paying $5 for a Commander 2017 copy of Read the Bones. And our big winner this week, up 987% to $16.20, is Life Gift from Betrayers of Kamigawa. Not a reserve list card, however, there is no other printings of this card either. Betrayers of Kamigawa was quite a while ago, so supplies on this card are particularly low at this point. We have an enchantment for 3 mana, 1 green and 2, and whenever a land comes into play, you may gain 1 life. There's a lot of commanders we've seen from Strixhaven that really interact and synergize well with life gain. Dina, Soul Steeper, Belladros, Witherbloom, and Black's Vexing Pest, just to name a few. Alright, now before I get to cards I'm investing in this week, as always, if you're a subscriber, you know I want to thank you for your continued support. Unfortunately, up here in Ontario, Canada, we're in a lockdown that's not scheduled to end till nearly the end of May. Yep, that's right, my store is closed again. So if you're interested in supporting Dragonhill games, we would really appreciate if you head on over to our online marketplace. Of course, we have everything to meet all of your Magic the Gathering, anime, Pokemon, and board game needs. Alright, the first one I have for your consideration this week is Draco, Maw of Flames. Now, this was printed recently in Core Set 2020. Clearly, this is a staple card for most, if not all, Dragon decks. At $4.43, he's been on the rise lately, but I would expect him to continue to do so for the next little while at least. The reason for that is because dragons are kind of in the spotlight again for reasons we discussed in our top 10 list, and they're going to be even more so because our summer set is Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, dragons is in the name of the set. So it seems very likely that we're going to be seeing a bunch of awesome dragons, which should spark people's interest in building dragon-themed commander decks even more. For my last couple of picks this week, we're going to have a look at a couple of cards from Strixhaven School of Mages. So the first one I have for you guys is Valentine, Dean of the Vein. At $2.10, I think this is still a good buy, but I do feel like there's room for this to go down a little bit more when a lot more supply of Strixhaven enters the marketplace. So I would probably look at buying this in the $1 to $1.50 mark. But that said, even at $2.09, I think this is a fantastic pickup. There's a lot of room for Valentine to grow in the future. He slots into a lot of decks. First of all, he's in the Golgari colors, so there's no reason why he couldn't be in something like Atraxa or any deck that's going to employ Doubling Season, things of that nature. Secondly, he's a 1 mana cost commander with Menace and Lifelink, and he has a pretty awesome static ability on it. If a non-token creature an opponent control would die, exile it instead. So this alone is really good. The second ability is not so great, but it is a good mana sink if you happen to have extra mana available. When you exile a non-token creature an opponent control that died, you may pay 2. If you do, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. I do expect to see Valentine cropping up in a lot of future commander builds. And last but not least, we have our speculation play for the week. That's right, it's Shali, Dean of Radiance. I hope I'm saying that right. Shali? Seems right. Anyway, also from a Strixhaven School of Mages, a bargain basement pickup at under $1. This is a perfect card for something like Atraxa, which, by the way, is the number 2 commander. Shali is just 2 mana cost, a legendary bird creature that's a 1/1 flying vigilance, but more importantly, you can tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. Good quality competitive Atraxa decks are pretty tight, but I do feel like Shali definitely has a place in an Atraxa build. Alright, well, I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode of This Week in MTG Finance. If you did, go ahead and smash that like button. It really helps me out, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.